This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so last day we discussed about GitOps and the importance of GitOps and why you should be using GitOps. It also provides a flexible way for your DevOps engineer and developer to work separately, right? And we can actually work like two different teams at the same time without much coupling, right? Without much dependency between each team. You can work as separate team and the developers, I mean, when I say developers, it's actually ops, can put the code inside the Git repository and some tool will take care of the rest of the things, right? Deploying these operations into the Kubernetes clusters. Your company may manage multiple clusters, so whichever cluster that you want your application to go, it will be taken there. So basically the status of your operations are stored inside a Git repository, and some tool like Argo CD will continuously take that information from the GitHub and deploy them into the production clusters, production or development clusters. And even though right now, most of the time we will be talking about our applications, such as your applications, microservices, quite front end, quite back end, so shopping cart, prime customer. I mean, when I say application, I'm talking about the application that your company is managing and developing. So most of the time we are dealing with the application deployments, but actually GitOps is not just about the application development. Whatever operation that you do inside your company can actually be converted into GitOps. It could be your CI/CD process, the entire CI/CD process you can write inside a file and put inside the Git repository, and Argo CD can implement the GitOps practices for the CI/CD. Whenever you want to make any change in the CI/CD pipeline, you want to create a step where you want to do some advanced testing, so you can write additional steps inside a file, and Argo CD can pick those changes and implement change your CI/CD practice in your company, or the monitoring strategies in your company, what service to monitor, which components to monitor. Those things also you can write as files and put them inside the Git repository, and Argo CD can then implement the GitOps practices. So any system, not just for your application deployment, or not just about taking your application to production. Other than that, any operation that you do inside your company nowadays, there are a lot of cloud native tools using which you can write them as files and then store them in Git. And it is very easy today. I mean, it is not like before. Today, it's actually very easy. And then whatever you put inside that Git repository, Argo CD will implement it in real time. And then we discussed about the project, with respect to our code project, what is the difference between developers and DevOps, and then we discussed about Argo CD, GitOps, what is GitOps, and then how do you use Argo CD to manage your existing, what is the role or Argo CD in your continuous integration, continuous delivery process. We already discussed Argo CD is not a continuous integration, continuous delivery tool. There is a confusion. The name says Argo CD. Actually, it's not a CI/CD tool. They call it a CD, continuous delivery tool. Again, I mean, CD has a whole different meaning than just delivering your application. So Argo CD is not neither. It's not CI or CD. It's actually, I want to call it GitOps. So there is a confusion there. So that's why talked about what is your place in Argo CD when it comes to the pipelines. Give me 1 second. Okay, so and then we discussed about yeah. So inside your pipeline, inside your CI/CD pipeline, Argo CD has a role. Argo CD can do the deployment. Argo CD can right whatever your continuous integration tool can put something in Git. Argo CD can deploy that into production or deploy that into Kubernetes first stage. So those things Argo CD can be used in your CI/CD process, and that's what Argo CD does, right? And your lab environment, we discussed about your lab environment, and then you need a Kubernetes cluster and some Argo CD command line to be installed, and we have installed both of them. We created a cluster in the Google Cloud, and then we have installed AWS command line in your laptop, right? These things are done, and today we will proceed with yesterday we have just installed things. Today we have to log in on the command line, and then we discussed about how Argo CD can manage different clusters. It is possible that you can tell Argo CD a Coit frontend to be deployed in this cluster, Coit backend one to be deployed in a different cluster, and then my other application to be deployed in a different cluster. It is possible you can deploy application into different clusters. So Argo CD at the same time it can speak to more than one Kubernetes cluster, and we will see how Argo CD does that. And then we talk about inside Argo CD we create applications, we create quite front-end application, quite back-end applications, different applications in Argo CD, and inside those applications we specify all the settings of which Git repository to take the code from, which cluster to deploy, right? All those things we can specify over here. And then we'll discuss about deploying our Coit backend 2 and Coit backend 1 in the GitOps way without using kubectl, how we will deploy these applications into a Kubernetes cluster just by uploading the manifest in GitHub. So that is something we will talk about. And then Argo CD UI, Argo CD come along with a UI that we will talk about. And then how Argo CD do the synchronization, and what happens if there is a drift in the status. Somebody manually made some changes, how Argo CD will respond to that, and then right some synchronization, how Argo CD do the synchronization. So those things we will discuss about today. So let's get started. So yesterday, yeah, and the current situation is I have a Kubernetes cluster. I have a Kubernetes cluster and I have my laptop, and inside my laptop I have installed Argo CD command line, and I can execute different commands in this command line. I can manage the Argo CD just by using some commands, which is awesome, right? Which is you want to create an application, Argo CD application, you can run some command, and the Argo CD is already running inside the cluster as different containers. I already told you Argo CD is developed as different um, microservices, right? Argo CD server, and then metrics manager, then different services. Yeah, so Argo CD is a combination of multiple microservices, and we already installed Argo CD inside our Kubernetes cluster, and now it is time to connect from the CLI to the cluster, right? To the Argo CD server, which is running inside the cluster. So that's what I'm going to do next. I'm going to log in to this Argo CD from my laptop's command line. So that's what I'll do. I'll come here, and the command what I can use is I can use the command argo cd login. And before I do that, there is something that I want to show you. So inside the remote Kubernetes cluster, you can run the command kubectl get ports to see, and you should use -n argo cd because argo cd is installed in a separate namespace. That's why. And then yeah, over here we used to mention Argo CD server, not the different applications. You can see all the applications that are running, and of course they might be running as the deployments or some other controllers. That yeah, there are 4 deployments, and there will be 4 services, 4 or 5. There will be 5 services, and yes, there are a number of services, and this is the Argo CD server, and this service may be exposed to the outside world as a load balancer. Right now, this is a cluster IP service, and we can expose this service as a load balancer. There are different ways to expose a service in Kubernetes. Either you can expose it using port forwarding, you already know, and then other option is you can set this service type as a load balancer. That is another option. So maybe that's what I will do. I will make this service as a load balancer, and then I can browse for the public IP from anywhere in the world rather than doing the port forwarding. Since it is a Google Cloud cluster, I have the flexibility to create a load balancer. So this is what I will do. I can directly edit the service inside Kubernetes. There's a command called kubectl edit service. We can use this command to directly edit the service in Kubernetes. Right now it is cluster IP. I want to change that to the load balancer. So either you can use the edit command, or there is a patch command also available along with kubectl that you can use to edit the existing service in the Kubernetes cluster. I'm directly editing that. And basically, it will open this kubectl command will open a YAML file, and I can edit this YAML file. This is not a nano editor. This is actually a VI editor, and I can change this. I can change the type to load balance. And somebody is unmute. Somebody is unmute. Sahal, can you mute? Sahal, I think you are. Okay, so this is what I can do. Instead of cluster IP, I can change the type to load balancer, and then I can remove these existing settings of the cluster IP. Cluster IP is specified over here inside the existing YAML file. I'm just deleting those lines. Right, I'm deleting those lines, and now this service would become a load balancer service. Yes, of course, I know this is not the right practice. I can actually change the YAML file and then get the YAML file in my laptop and run the kubectl apply. But actually, if you want to edit a service directly inside the cluster, you can use this command. So now I change this service into a load balancer service, and this time you will see a public IP coming to the load balancer, and right now it is in pending state, and now in some time you will see a public IP available for this particular service, and then that is actually this particular service exposes a UI of Argo CD, and you can, it's a good looking UI, you can browse it and you can see it. So that's what we will see next. I got a public IP, and now I can browse this public IP, and it's a public IP, so anyone in the world can browse it. So if I try to browse it, it would take me to the Argo CD UI, and it will actually ask me for the username and password. So I have to find out and enter the username and password. I will explain where you can find those credentials. So since I am getting some browser warning because there is no SSL certificate that is provided by a non-identity. So you will get this warning. This is expected. Don't worry about it. You just click this button, proceed the unsafe option, and then it will take you to the Argo CD login page where you have to log in with a username and password. Then you can start managing different Argo CD application from this UI. All right, so that's what we will do next. Next, we will log in using the browser as well as using the command line. So exposing the Argo CD server as load balancer. There are different ways you can expose something in Kubernetes. You can use load balancer, you can use port forwarding, or you can use ingress. That which is something I will explain add as a course somewhere inside our existing Kubernetes lab course. Actually, I need 5 minutes. Sorry, guys. I will be right back. Take a short break. Take a short break of 5 minutes. We will continue in 5 minutes. Okay.
This conference will now be recorded.
Okay. So let's talk about how to log into Argo CD. So there are two ways. There are two ways you can work with Argo CD. One is using a command line. Let's say you want to create some application inside the Argo CD. You can just run a command, create app, and then some application get created inside Argo CD from the command line. And that is why you have installed the command line tool in your laptop, and it is very convenient to manage the Argo CD. Argo CD command line is very convenient, and that is one option. And the second option is that there is a service that have a UI service which is running the Argo CD server. That is what we just talked about. The Argo CD server pod is running inside this cluster, and then if you expose this pod to the outside world, and which we actually did, we made this service a load balancer. That's what we did in the last session. And now anyone can browse this IP address and then they can log in to the Argo CD on a browser, on a UI. So Argo CD come along with a UI and a very good UI. I must say, I mean, generally all Kubernetes UIs are complicated and not user friendly, but Argo CD UI is very useful for you. You can see lots of states, you can see the logs coming from the containers, you can see a lot of things from the UI. So there are two ways you can work on Argo CD, either using the Argo CD command line or by browsing this, and then by clicking some button you can create different applications inside Argo CD. And first of all, you need credentials to log in to the Argo CD server. So inside your Argo CD server, it has a username and password. And when you try to browse Argo CD URL, it will ask you for a username and password like this. And username by default is admin. And the password, you can get the password from a secret that will be automatically stored inside the Argo CD namespace. When you install Argo CD, automatically a secret get created inside the Argo CD namespace, and you can get that secret directly from the cluster. So at the time of Argo CD installation that we did in the last session, a secret get created inside the Kubernetes cluster, and that would contain the Argo CD password. And using kubectl, I would use kubectl command now to read this secret and take the password from that secret. And the name of the secret is, I think, yeah, I can just get all the secrets by running kubectl get secrets command in the namespace Argo CD. And there would be a secret called Argo CD server or something. Argo CD initial admin secret. Yeah, this is it. There is a secret called Argo CD initial admin secret, and it will be there once you install Argo CD. It get installed automatically, and it would contain the first initial admin password, which you must change, right? But right now, this is what I'm going to do using the kubectl command. Kubectl get secrets minus n argo cd. Then you specify the name of the secret and then minus o YAML. I just want to see that YAML format, and this is the password. And the password by default will be in base 64 format. So you have to do this. You have to take whatever password you got and then run this command base pipe base 64 minus minus decode. You can run this command either from your Windows PC or MacBook. This command works, or you can do it from any AWS machine. So this command will decode the password. This is, right now this is in encoded form, and it will get decoded and echo to print it in a proper lining format. So this is the password. This is the password I can use in order to log into the dashboard. Not only the dashboard, I can also log in from the command line. Same password I can use at the command line and at the dashboard. So I'm going to use this password at the dashboard to log into the dashboard. So go to the URL. Username by default, it's admin. The password, we just got it in from the cluster that is stored inside the cluster as a secret, and I got that password. I just click the sign in button. Now I am successfully logged in to the Argo CD UI, and I can create applications directly from here that I will talk about a little bit later. Right now, let me also try to log in from my laptop's command line. So what I had also done in the last session is I have installed Argo CD command line in my laptop, and then I can use a command called Argo CD login from my laptop's terminal, and then I can specify the IP address of the machine, whatever the IP address of the service, I can put that, and then I can enter the username and password. Then I can log in from the command line. Then after that, I can run different commands to create application in Argo CD. So there are two ways you can manage Argo CD. So let me go ahead and log in from the command line. So go to my command line, go to your Windows PowerShell is also fine. Argo CD login followed by the IP address of the Argo CD server, and I already have it, the load balancer IP. So Argo CD login, then you can specify the URL or the host name of the Argo CD server. By default, it is nothing but the IP address of the load balancer. Just run this command, and then it will tell you this is a certificate. In the browser also you get some warning, the certificate is self-signed. Do you want to continue? Yes, I want to continue. I know that it is not a valid certificate, but I still want to continue. And then it will ask you for the username is admin, the same credentials what you used in the browser. Username is admin, password is the password what you got from the cluster just now, and that's it. Now it tells me I am logged in successfully, and a context got created for Argo CD. This is the Argo CD server context, and yeah, what that means is using the Argo CD command line, I can work on more than one Argo CD, but let's not worry about that right now. So right now, my Argo CD command line is connected to the remote Argo CD server. Now I can using different Argo CD command, I can start managing the remote Argo CD server using the command line. I want to create a new Argo CD application. I can run a simple command Argo CD app create, and then an application get created inside the Argo CD. So a lot of things. So we will get into that. So right now, what we did is we have logged into the Argo CD server using the command line and also using the browser. And now the actual work start, right? Now we want to configure Argo CD to read your application from GitHub and then deploy that into the Kubernetes cluster. That is what Argo CD has to do, right? So in order to ask Argo CD to do that, you need access to the Argo CD. Now we have set up the access. That's the part we have completed. So we have set up the access to Argo CD, and now the actual work start deploying your applications using Argo CD. So So it's done. We have successfully logged into the Argo CD using the browser as well as using the command line. And then there are different. So I'm going to use command line for some time, which I feel is a bit more convenient than the UI. And UI also has its own purpose. UI is also awesome. We can see a lot of things graphically in the UI, and even we can create application from the UI also. So yeah, before we go there, first of all, let's talk about what are the things that you can do inside your Argo CD. So, let's go back to our original topic. What Argo CD is capable to do, right? So you have Argo CD, have Argo CD. Argo CD itself is running inside a cluster. Absolutely, yes. Argo CD itself is running inside a cluster. And Argo CD by default, Argo CD can manage that cluster actually. You don't really have to do any additional settings for Argo CD to talk to this cluster. Whichever cluster Argo CD is currently running, Argo CD can deploy your application into that cluster without any additional settings. And by default, that cluster will be one of the cluster Argo CD can manage. If you want to delete it, of course, you can delete it. Some company will run one cluster dedicatedly to run Argo CD, and then other cluster to run the applications, and then same Argo CD will manage all these clusters. So that is possible. So a company will have a cluster, Kubernetes cluster that would run Argo CD, and then a production cluster that run the actual application, quite front and quite back end, whatever application that your company have will be running in different clusters. So it is possible Argo CD can manage more than one cluster at the same time. So right now, by default, this cluster will be automatically added into Argo CD, the cluster wherever Argo CD is currently running. And that is what I'm going to show you. And yeah, remember what Argo CD is supposed to do. Argo CD's job, what it is. Argo CD's job is very precise and very clear. There is no doubt about it. This is what Argo CD always do. Take your manifest from the GitHub and deploy them into the Kubernetes clusters. This statement is always true. Okay, so that part we will get into later. And whatever manifest Argo CD get from GitHub, it has to apply to the Kubernetes cluster, maybe this cluster or maybe some other cluster that your company may have. So today I will show you how you can add one additional cluster into your Argo CD, and then you can configure Argo CD to deploy your application into whichever cluster it want to. So for that, first Argo CD should be connected to the cluster. So there's a command. It's a command called Argo CD. I'm going to use command line for some time because, like I said, it's kind of very convenient. So you can use this Argo CD cluster list. I think cluster list is the command. Then it would show you all the clusters that your Argo CD is currently connected with. So this is a default cluster. This is a cluster that I just tried adding myself manually. This is a different cluster altogether. And then no, so it is possible that at the same time Argo CD can actually speak to more than one cluster. In your case, by default, there would be only one, and this is going to be that kubernetes.default.svc that refer to the cluster where Argo CD is presently running. And yeah, this is a additional cluster that I have created. So and adding a new cluster is pretty easy. Adding a new cluster is pretty easy. I can use this command. I already have kubectl configured in my laptop, and in my kubectl I already have a bunch of Kubernetes cluster I am speaking with. So I can add one of those clusters directly in using the Argo CD command line. It is possible. So kubectl config get context. You already know this command. What this command will show you, it will show you all the cluster that you are currently working with. So this is the default cluster, and there are some other clusters also that I am currently working with. So what I'm going to do now is, so this is another cluster. I want to add this cluster also into my Argo CD so that Argo CD can start managing this cluster. And for that, you can use this command Argo CD. Actually, this cluster is currently not running, so I am expecting some error when I execute this command. Argo CD server, sorry, context create, and let me check the syntax. Okay, context, then the name of the context, and flags. Okay, I think the command is Argo CD create. Okay, better I can search in Google, right? That's the easiest thing to do. So I want to know what is the command to use to create a new context. Argo CD add context. So simply search in Google and then, okay, it's Argo CD cluster add, not context. It is Argo CD cluster add. This is the command. And then I can specify what is the context, the kubectl context. I can mention that and that will do. That will do. I think that simple command will do. So I go to my command line, the command to create a new cluster to Argo CD. First, I have to specify. First, I have to see what are the current context I am speaking to. My kubectl is speaking to, and assume this is the context. Now I want to add into my Argo CD. So I'm going to execute this command, Argo CD server add, and then I'm going to specify, sorry, it's not server, it's cluster add. Then I am going to specify the existing context, and I think I will get an error. So it will ask me, this will create a service account. So basically when I run this command, what happens in the background when I try to add a new cluster to the Argo CD. What will happen in the background? I will give a brief idea of what is going to happen to the new cluster. So in my company, I have a cluster. I have a cluster in my company, and right now, no, I am already speaking to that cluster using the kubectl command. Kubectl command already have admin access to this cluster already. Kubectl have access to admin access to this cluster already. And now what I want to do is, now I want to start to configure Argo CD to manage this cluster, right? Now I want Argo CD to be managing this cluster. And for Argo CD to manage this cluster, first of all, there should be some service account and some credentials, right? Some kind of credentials that need to get created inside this cluster. And then Argo CD will use that credential to communicate to the cluster, right? So when you run this command Argo CD cluster add for the first time, what happens is, in the remote cluster, since you already have kubectl configured, the remote cluster will be configured with some service account and everything. That would provide the login credentials to the Argo CD. So the good thing is that if you have already kubectl configured, talk to the cluster, and a single command you need to run to add the cluster into your cluster list of Argo CD. So yeah, it is asking me. I'm going to create some to configure, add this cluster to Argo CD. First, I have to create some service account, some credentials inside this cluster. Do you want to continue? So give yes, press Y, and then press enter. Then actually this cluster is currently not up and running. So I think I will get an error. Created. Oh, sorry. Actually the cluster is up and running. Cluster is actually up and running. So now the cluster have been added to the list of clusters that Argo CD manages. Now I can run this command Argo CD cluster list. Now there are 3 clusters that my Argo CD manages. Right now there are 3 clusters. that my Argo CD manages. Awesome. So this is great. We have seen how you can add the clusters into the Argo CD. Now it is time to deploy different applications into different clusters, and that's what I'm going to do next. So yeah, Argo CD applications. So now you have your Argo CD. Now you have your Argo CD, and Argo CD is capable to deploy different clusters, or in other words, actually by default, Argo CD get admin access to all the clusters. Whatever credentials now in the new cluster Argo CD created, it is actually the admin credentials. So right now Argo CD have all kind of access. By default, you can restrict if you want, but by default, Argo CD has full permission on the cluster. Argo CD can now start creating your applications. There is no problem. Argo CD can create code front-end deployments in here. Argo CD can create code front-end service. Whatever resource Argo CD want to create inside these clusters, or in other words, whatever resource that you ask Argo CD to create, Argo CD is now capable to do that inside these clusters. That is, that part is done. Argo CD is now capable to deploy different application or different resources into the Kubernetes cluster. That's awesome. And now what you want your Argo CD to do? Argo CD need to take some code from the GitHub. That's what the original intention is. You will put your Kubernetes manifest, maybe the deployment.yaml, and then the service.yaml. And in a real application, it would contain lot of things: ingress.yaml, service account.yaml, then permissions.yaml, roles.yaml, then there may be secrets.yaml, there may be some secrets. So maybe multiple things could be there inside a real application. In our point application, we have been discussing mostly about deployment and services, which will be the essential component of any application. And there can be additional things also. But yeah, whatever manifest you have, you put them all inside a Git repository, and then you want to ask your Argo CD to take these resources and deploy them into the selected cluster, and you can choose which cluster. So inside Argo CD, you have to specify some settings. So whatever application that you want Argo CD to deploy into Kubernetes, you have to specify those details of the application inside Argo CD, right? Of course, and you specify that using by creating an application. So inside the Argo CD, you would be creating different application. One application for the code front end, and another application for the code backend one. Like this for every application. How to do the deployment, where to take the code, how to take the what is the GitHub URL, then in which folder in the GitHub the manifest are located, and then which is the cluster that you want to deploy, right? All these settings you have to specify, right? So all those settings are specified inside the Argo CD application. So Argo CD is a resource. Argo CD application is a resource that you create inside the Argo CD server, which will consist of all this information. What is the application to deploy? Where is the GitHub URL, and which folder inside the GitHub contains the actual manifest? And then how to, which is the cluster that I want to deploy, and should it always synchronize, right? If any change happens in GitHub, automatically should I synchronize that changes into the cluster, or should I wait for a person to click the sync button? Or what happens if some of these YAML files got deleted from the repository? Should I delete the resources from the Kubernetes cluster? So a lot of information that Argo CD want to know, you can write them inside the Argo CD application. So next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create some Argo CD applications. I will create one application for Code Backend 2, Code Backend 1. So like that for different different application that I have in my company. I'm going to create an Argo CD applications with all these settings. So let us do that. We will start with the code backend 2, and I will tell you what I did uh, before the class. There are few certain things that I did. So now let's get started. Let's get started with creating the code backend 2 as an application in Argo CD. Okay, so that's what we are going to do. And now you will see something that is really awesome. Okay, so let's do this. So before the session, I mean, what I actually did already, I have created inside the GitHub, I have created a folder called Code Backend 2. Inside this folder, I have kept both the deployment.yaml and service.yaml. So what I want my Argo CD to do is, my Argo CD will check the GitHub. You already have the GitHub URL, right? You already have the GitHub URL. So Argo CD will connect to this GitHub URL, and it will check this folder code backend to that I have created. I already created it, and you can check out the latest code from the repository. You will be able to see it. And then inside that folder, I have created two files, deployment.yaml and service.yaml. And then what I want Argo CD to do is it want to watch these files. If any changes are happening to this file, if any changes are happening, take those files and deploy them into this Kubernetes cluster. Currently, I have 3 Kubernetes clusters. I can choose, when I create the application, I can choose to which cluster I want to deploy. And then not only the deployment, should it do the auto synchronization? What that means is somebody modified this YAML file, what Argo CD will do about it? Will Argo CD automatically take those YAML file and push them, apply them into the cluster, or will it wait for a human to do the synchronization? So there are different configurable settings we can write inside an application. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to create an application. I'm going to create a code backend to application inside the Argo CD. So I'm going to use my command line to do that. Like I said, creating application is much convenient from the command line. You can also use the UI if you want. That is possible. The command is argo cd app create. Argo cd app create is the command, and then you can actually type minus help option. And like I said, along with the app creation, you have to specify a lot of things: which cluster to deploy, which GitHub URL to take, which folder within that GitHub you have the manifest, and then should it synchronize automatically. A bunch of things you have to mention. So we will see what are the various options available using the command minus help. Then it will tell you what are the possibilities, what are the different options that are available. So definitely, you have to specify the repo. This is an example. Create a directory app. So this is an example. Argo app create guest book. So you have to specify the name of the application. Then you have to specify in which GitHub repository you have the Kubernetes manifest, and then you have to specify within this repository which folder. That's what indicated by path. Then destination namespace, in which namespace you want to deploy the application. So in my case, I want to simply deploy it to the default. And destination server, Argo CD may be working with multiple clusters at the same time, right? I already told you that. So in my case, I want to deploy to this default cluster, and then directory recursive. So if the directory has some subfolders, apply the subfolders also, right? In this Git repository, there's a folder, and it may contain some subfolders. So do a recursive check and apply every YAML file. So that is this option means. So like that, there are different examples that they had given. If you are using Helm, then rather than putting your source code in the Git repository, you can actually put Helm chart in the Git repository and ask Argo CD to take that. We will see that later. Right now, my intention is I want to create a application point backend to in the Argo CD. I think this command will work fine for me. Yeah, I think this command will work for me. This is the destination server. I don't need this because I have only two simple files. There is no subdirectory. And then namespace, a path, I have to specify whichever folder I have in Git repository. So this thing I want to replace. So I'm going to use the same command. I'm going to use this same command, and I'm going to replace different information. First of all, the name of the application. So by default, here it is written as guest book. I want to create the application with the name Coit frontend, Coit backend 2. That's the application that I want to create. Name of the Argo CD application. And then over here, you have to specify the GitHub URL where you have kept your Coit application. So I will do that. I will provide this URL here. You all have that URL, right? So I'm just going to get that URL from the GitHub. And like I said, what I had already done is I have inside this resource manifest folder, I have created a different folder called Coit backend 2. And inside the Coit backend 2, I have kept the deployment YAML and service YAML. So that would make things easy for Argo CD. I can tell Argo CD, this is the folder that you want to watch. This is the folder that you want to watch. So let me mention this path to the Argo CD at the time of creating the application. So go to the terminal. I have to specify the path as this folder, and then the repository as the actual repository URL. I mean, I can get the repository URLs from here. From my GitHub, I can copy the URL, the HTTPS URL I am copying. So I paste it here, and then what else? A destination namespace. Everything else, let it be. Everything else is fine. So I'm going to just execute this command. Then an application get created inside Kubernetes, inside Argo CD server. And this is going to be awesome. So an application got created, and you can always see using the Argo CD command line, you can execute the command app list. You can see all the applications that are currently deployed into Argo CD. So right now there's only one application, and you can see the status and everything. And let's see. Let's take a look at the UI. From now, maybe I prefer to use the UI that is actually much better. Let's go to the Argo CD UI and see how things are looking like. Let me read. Yeah. So you can see some new application got created called Coin Backend 2, and if you click here, you can actually see different details of this application. On the top, click on app details, then whatever things you mentioned during the command line, right? What is the GitHub URL? And by default it is, you can also specify which Git branch, whether you want to deploy from the production branch, or do you want to deploy from the development branch or the master branch. Git branch also you can choose. In Git you can have different branches, right? So wherever your repositories are, you can do that. Then which folder, right? All those information. And right now it is out of sync. Right now it is out of sync. Out of sync means the cluster is not in sync with what is there in the Git. And that is the responsibility of Argo CD, synchronizing the GitHub status to your Kubernetes cluster. That's what Argo CD do. That is the primary responsibility of Argo CD. Argo CD, what it is supposed to do is it will take this folder, these two files from the folder, and then make sure that these files are applied into the Kubernetes cluster. So right now, only one Kubernetes cluster. So that is what Argo CD is supposed to do. And right now it is out of sync. Out of sync means that The status what you defined in GitHub is different than the current status of the cluster. So it is not yet created. These services and deployments are not created yet. That is what it means. And why was it not created? Actually, by default, it's not automatic. You have to click the button to synchronize it. That's what I'm going to do next. I go to the browser, and right now it is out of sync. So I go back to my application and then I manually click this button sync on the top, sync on the top. Then it tells me, the Argo CD asks me, so these are the manifests that you want to synchronize, uh, right? So a service called Coit backend 2 and a deployment called Coit backend 2. And yes, that is what we defined inside the GitHub. Argo CD already have that information. Argo CD just didn't sync it because it need your approval. You disable the auto sync. So I'm just going to click the button synchronize and then just wait and see what Argo CD is doing. Argo CD is creating a service and the service endpoints. Argo CD is creating a deployment and then different replica set. Deployment creates a replica set and replica set create two ports. Even though I told you deployment directly create the ports, actually deployment controller create another replica set controller, which in fact create the ports. But anyway, you don't really have to worry too much about it. But this is the internal structure of Kubernetes. When you create a service get created and also some endpoints as well get created. And you can see every resource that got created and now it says it's healthy, it is synced and synchronization is okay. And in which GitHub branch it is currently synced. So currently it is taking the latest code from the GitHub and it's synchronized with the latest code from GitHub. And if you want to change it, yes, you can change it in the application settings. That is also possible. So everything got created, the pods got created, and then the deployment service, everything got created properly. And why do you need to use kubectl anymore, right? Everything is displayed to you very beautifully, right? And of course you can use kubectl. I want to see those ports which got created. I run the command kubectl get ports. I can see those ports that Argo CD created for the Coit backend to application. Yeah, I can see two ports got created, and yeah, deployment service, everything got created. Get deployments, I can see the Coit backend to deployment, and then get services, and you can see the service got created. Actually, then the deployment created the replica set created the ports. That is the actual workflow that happens underneath inside Kubernetes. And you can, yes, you can use kubectl. You can use kubectl for getting every information, replica sets. So there would be a replica set called Coit backend 2 created by this deployment, and then this replica set created these ports. So it's all there. You can see them using kubectl, but from now probably rather than kubectl, the UI looks much more awesome. Right? So everything got created, and now we will try to make some change in those YAML files. I'm going to, let's say I decided to upgrade my Coit backend to version 2, the latest. Right? I have a Docker image called V10 or V11. I want right now it is running some image, and now I want Coit backend to get upgraded to the latest version. So that's what we will try to do. We will try to upgrade our applications, and let's take a look. Give me 1 minute. I will be right back. Okay, guys, so that's what it is. And all right, so okay, so now let me make some change to the Kubernetes manifest. Right now, I'm a DevOps engineer, and what I want to do is I want to upgrade my code backend to the latest version, and I am currently managing this Git repository, and that is where I have created this deployment.yaml and service.yaml. And now what I want to do is I want to change the image version of code backend to, and that's what I'm going to do. From now I will work only on GitHub, and then it is the Argo CD's responsibility to watch my changes. And yes, now it is watching. Now Argo CD is watching the GitHub. If somebody is making any change, any changes are going to happen in one of these files. If there is any change, Argo CD will take it. And Argo CD, right now, it's not automatic. You didn't enable automatic synchronization. That is the best thing to do, but we haven't done that yet. But Argo CD is watching the GitHub for the changes. And if Argo CD detected any change in the GitHub, it would say out of sync. What that means is out of sync status means the code front end application running in the cluster is out of sync from the latest GitHub update. So let's see. That's what I'm going to do. What I will do is I'll just go to my laptop. This is my laptop, and that is where I have kept the code. I have the code, and in the resource manifest folder, I have the code backend 2 folder, and that is where I have kept this service.yaml and deployment.yaml. So I'm going to make some change. Right now, I'm using this as my Docker image. Now I want to upgrade my application. I want to use v3. I want to upgrade my Docker image to version 3. Right now, Code Backend 2 is running an old version. So I'm a DevOps engineer. I'm on my laptop. I opened my laptop deployment.yaml file in a code editor. Now I am going to push this code into the GitHub. So I go here. I go here in my VS Code. You can use command line. You can use Git command line, or you can use VS Code or something. So I'm going to use the VS Code. I come here. I stage the changes, and now I'm going to add some command, uh, upgrade quite backend to version 3. So I'm going to make this upgrade, and all I am doing is I'm just working on my laptop and make changes, whatever change that I want to make to the manifest, and then I am just going to push it to the GitHub repository. That's all I will do from my side as a DevOps engineer. I'm just pushing the changes into the Git repository. And now you can go to the Git repository and take a look. Go to the Git repository and refresh this page, and you can see a new commit has come. If you click on the commits, you can see a new commit has come. So 25 seconds ago, I made the code change. I upgraded the deployment.yaml of code backend to the latest version. I made some change. So now let's see how Argo CD will respond to that change. That is what, and we will see that from the UI. Let me go to the UI, and like I said, to do such kind of things, UI is much convenient. So just wait. Argo CD will detect that there is a change in the GitHub, and then Argo CD would tell you now you are out of sync. There is some change in the GitHub, and that is not applied to the cluster. What that means is now you are out of sync. Argo CD will take up to 3 minutes. That is the maximum limit. That's the synchronization limit. And so Argo CD will by default take up to 3 minutes for checking the GitHub. So we wait. Okay, so you can see it's out of sync. Argo CD now is telling you Argo CD, and it tells you that it's out of sync right now. You you have a different manifest in GitHub, and decide state is different and the actual state is different. That's what I mean by out of sync. And yes, you can manually click the button sync. Then it will tell you, what are all the different applications that you want to sync. You can sync everything just like kubectl. If you change something, you can see only that one is out of sync. This is already in sync. The service is already in sync. The green color indicate. So Argo CD know which is the application that is not in sync. I mean, which is the particular resource that is not in sync. In our case, it is the deployment that we modified that became out of sync. So I just click the button synchronize. Let's see what happens. Yes, looks like what Argo CD is doing. Argo CD is creating a new revision of my application, and then it created a replica set, and then it is creating the new ports, and the new ports seems to have some problem. Looks like I got some error. The red color indicate there is something is broken. And let me see what is broken. Click here. It is unable to pull the Docker image. So there is no such Docker image called v3. So this is a mistake that I did actually. I specified the Docker image name as v3, and when Argo CD tried to sync it, it detected that there is no such image in hub.docker.com. So it has failed. The deployment has failed. And one good thing that Kubernetes, you already know what Kubernetes, how Kubernetes run the update. Kubernetes will not delete the old pod until the new pod become healthy. That is one additional advantage that Kubernetes have. So the old pod is still there. No, only if the new pod come up, the old pod will be deleted. So that's awesome, right? Your customer will not face any problem even if the deployment has failed. The new pods fail to get created, the old pod will continue to run. Only if the new pod becomes successful, the old pod will be deleted by Kubernetes. That's awesome. That's the default behavior of Kubernetes. Yeah. So come back to our actual point. So now I want to do some rollback. So I tried to do some deployment, but it had failed. Now I want to do some rollback. I want to go back to the previous state. And all you need to do is just click here, history and rollback. Click here, history and rollback. And this is another cool feature of Argo CD. And this is the deployment that failed, something that I tried to do 3 minutes ago. What I did is I updated my GitHub and tried to synchronize Kubernetes application. But it seems like there is an error. I did something wrong. Now I want to roll back. I can just click on the roll button, and this is the one that is stable that I deployed 30 minutes ago, the first deployment. I want to roll back to this revision. So I can just click on rollback button and click on OK. Then what happens is it will roll back to the old setting, and whatever new settings that got created, it will be reverted, and basically it would create a revision 3, and now the ports are reverted back, and we will check the Docker image of these ports. Right now they are back to v1. So you can do the rollback also, and then yes, it would say out of sync, and yes, let it be out of sync. Let it be out of sync because I want to roll back because there's a problem with the v3. I have to fix that, and then I will do the update sometime later. So you will get such kind of flexibilities when you are updating your application. All right, so making changes to the manifest and roll back, right? We also discussed about how to roll back. Great. So the next thing, we will talk about the UI, and I have already told you the Argo CD UI is awesome. Argo CD UI have a lot of things, and it would tell you, are you out of sync, right? Or you can even ask Argo CD to automatically sync. That we will do later. but it will tell you, are you currently out of sync or are you in sync? You can see that information, and you can see this flow. I mean, you created this Argo CD application, and when you created this application, it then created, it was created 19 minutes ago. Then it took almost 4 minutes to create the service and deployment. Service and deployment got created 15 minutes ago. Then the service created, some endpoints, and deployment created the replica sets, and then finally the pods. All those things are created, and whatever changes are happening, the rollback details Argo CD will have, and at any time you can roll back to any of the revision that you want to do just by clicking some button. And this is much convenient to a DevOps engineer without having to make lot of mistakes, but running wrong commands and stuff like that. This is much convenient. And then also, I will show you some cool features. Yeah, so let me, now I want to see the status of my Kubernetes cluster. So I have the Kubernetes cluster, and it would contain different worker node, multiple worker node. In my case, only one, but in real time, in your case, most probably you have more than one worker node that you created at the time of Kubernetes creation. So I want to check the status of the nodes. Argo CD display. Now click this button over here. Argo CD will show you all the worker nodes in your cluster. And in my case, right now, there's only one. Yeah, right now, there's only one. That's fine. So this is the worker node that I currently have. And inside that worker node, I have the coin backend to pods. Two pods are running. And then it looks like there are more space for creating more pods inside the machine, because only this much CPU is currently in use. The total capacity is 2000, and currently I have used only 571, right? And then memory also I have total 4 GB, and I have used only some 500 MB so far. I can see the status of the nodes. I'm talking about the Google Cloud machines, right? Kubernetes cluster worker nodes, the actual machines that is running the container. So you can see in which node your containers are running. So all that information you will get some good insight. If you have more nodes, all the node information will appear here. And then now I am curious about the flow, about the network flow. So just click this button, and you can see Coit backend 2 is the Kubernetes service, and then it is sending the traffic to these two pods, right? I mean, this is the diagram that we always draw inside Kubernetes, how service talk to which pod. So you can just click here to see how the workflow is happening. And then different options. This is for list format. And you can do some filtering. In my case, I don't have to worry. I have only a service and a deployment. So you can see them in a list format. This is the service and this is the deployment. And now let's say I want to list all those resources that are healthy. Then I can, there are different filtering options. If it is a complicated application, there will be a lot of things in this page. So you want to filter out the deployment, you want to see only deployment, or you want to see only services, then you can actually use this filtering options on the left side. And this is nice, neat UI. And yeah, and also a lot of other cool options. If you want to make any manual change, let's say I want to change something that is not there in Git. And sometimes you will come across such kind of situation. You want to override some default value, whatever is defined in Git. It's possible due to some problem in production. You might want to change back your Docker image, or you may want to pass a different environmental variable. So you want to make some change in the application quickly, right, from the UI. So that would, what that means is you would be out of sync from the GitHub, but sometimes you may have to do such kind of things, even though this is not recommended. This is how we can do it. You can go to the application, click on the app details, and then there's a edit button, and you can edit any of these parameters, right? You can edit any of these parameters, different parameters. Okay, I think, yeah. For direct Kubernetes manifest, you can, yeah, you can edit directly from here. This is the application. Okay, I think for if you are writing them as Kubernetes manifest, I don't think. Yeah, okay, you can edit it, right? You can edit it. You can go to the service or you can go to the deployment, and you want to do some overriding of the values. You can do it here. Let's say I decided that I want to make some temporary change. I want to change the health check settings replicas to 3. So due to some heavy load, I don't have time to, I don't have any other patients. There is some high load happening in my production. I want to increase the number of replicas for the code backend too. I can just come here and increase the number of replicas to 3. Then I can click on the save button, and then the number of replicas will increase to 3. And of course, it means now again, you made some override settings, override changes, and now your Kubernetes status differ from what is there in Git. In the Git repository, it is still 2, replica equal to 2, and you override that settings by increasing, directly editing the YAML manifest. And yes, you can do such kind of things. And 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 yes, it would then say you are out of sync. Of course you are. Now let me go back to the application. Now you can go back to the application and click this button, and you can see now 3 ports got created. Of course you are out of sync, but now you have 3 ports that got created. So you can override the default values as well inside Argo CD. Okay, great. So rest of the topics we will discuss later. The automatic synchronization, stuff like that we will discuss later. And Argo CD is so simple and so straightforward. Uh, Basically, implementing GitOps practices was the most toughest job in the companies. So first of all, Kubernetes has come. Kubernetes made everything standardized. Whatever change that you want to make in the production or in your environment or in your infrastructure, you always have to write them inside manifest, inside YAML files. And so a company who is using Kubernetes, they are already using all these YAML files, manifest. Sometimes they are using manifest directly, and most of the companies are using something like Helm or customize some tool that would simplify the Kubernetes configuration. But whatever tools that they use, they are at the end, they are nothing but files and folders that could be put inside a Git repository. So Argo CD can basically take them all, right? So GitOps is very straightforward if you are using Kubernetes, because any company who is using Kubernetes, the manifest are already written as YAML files. So the purpose of Argo CD is pretty simple, and there is no confusion when it comes to the GitOps of Kubernetes, but that is not the case with the other application. So Argo CD does only one thing, always one thing. Like I said, keep checking the GitHub for any changes and synchronizing them to your Kubernetes cluster. And yes, literally, when you are using Kubernetes, all the manifests are already files in GitHub. So you will find Argo CD to be very easy and very simple and very straightforward. And this is what it always do. Take the manifest from the GitHub and synchronize your clusters.
Hi, Basil.
Yes.
Basil, like this Argo CD and the GitOps concepts come into the picture only when we have Docker images pre-created, right?
Of course. So like I said, Argo CD is only responsible for managing your Kubernetes clusters. So yes, you should
So
have
then,
everything
then
in
the
place. You should
traditional
have.
way of Jenkins pipelines we have like image getting
You
built,
must have.
and we can
You must
deploy in
have.
Jenkins directly in Jenkins, right? Then why we are using a GitOps Argo CD tool? If the image building is the main pain
Jenkins.
on
Jenkins is not GitOps, and uh, Jenkins can be used, and many people uses Jenkins, but it is not as simple as this, right? Using bringing the GitOps practices using Jenkins, it's not a simple job as I explained today. It's much more complicated. But
so what would
yes,
be the like
Jenkins can be.
pre step to this GitOps coming before this Argo CD tool? The code will go through Jenkins, right, for the Docker image to be created for a simple pipeline.
Okay, yeah, yeah. I'll talk about Jenkins cannot do all these things alone, first of all. But yeah, I'll just talk about in a traditional environment. In a traditional environment, there are a lot of things. There are Jenkins files which contains the settings to deploy your application, and then there are Terraform manifest or something like that that contains the infrastructure information that your company have. You may have Ansible to manage the configurations, and assume you converted them all into manifest. So you have Jenkins, all the Jenkins job created as Jenkins pipeline files. And then you have all the Terraform manifest wrote as JSON files. And when you have all this Ansible configuration, I mean, whatever tools that your company has to definitely use more than one tool to manage different thing. And all these tools will have different manifest. And then first of all, converting, Jenkins come along with a UI. Some people uses Ansible UI and even Terraform UI. So maybe not everything is coded already. So first you have to code everything up, make sure that convert everything Jenkins or whatever job that you do in different tools. First you have to convert them into the code. Then you have to put them inside a GitHub repository, and then you have to set up some another Jenkins pipeline which will take all these code, then deploy them into the Kubernetes cluster. So it is that much complicated, and during this job it has to use different tool. It has to use Ansible for applying the configuration, Terraform for provisioning the infrastructure, and then some whatever, right, Rundeck or some tools for the deployment. So it is this much complicated in traditional environment. So GitOps, the real meaning of GitOps is that whatever operation, whether it is your config management, releases, whatever process that you do in production, do it in Git. So in a traditional environment, it is not as straightforward as this. First of all, creating the code is a big work. The traditional tools, writing the code in Jenkins and writing the code in the traditional tools is a big job. They are not YAML files. Sometimes it could be real code. Sometimes you need to write your own programs. It's complicated.
Basil, I have one question. So you mean to say this Argo CD will only check the manifest files if any changes are there, and in the real-time environment, does these manifest files manually updated in the sense like into Git? Do we push the changes, or is it done like
Yeah.
when the developer updates his code, a Docker image is built? Right, and then will the manifest files we go and update it to v1, v2, something like that, or if we use latest, then we are not updating the manifest file, but there is a change, right? So how does Argo CD identify that there is a change?
You have to make the change in the whichever folder you configured Argo CD to match. So so you are asking about when a developer or when a new Docker image has come, how you will automatically update the manifest. Is that the question, or did I? read it
Yeah,
from.
one of my question, like, because I think we don't use V1, V2, maybe we will be using a latest so that we need not
Right.
keep on changing the manifest file.
Yeah, no, actually in production, you don't generally use latest. You would be using proper versioning for production.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, actually
Yes, they will
latest,
use
yeah,
the
something
version.
that we didn't do. Don't use latest. Yeah, your developers can use latest because every time they build the Docker image, they can call it a single name. That is fine. Don't use latest in production. In production, you better version it. Before you do a release, you better version it.
Okay.
Bashil, yesterday you said you will share that Kubernetes configuration videos, right? I don't find it in my dashboard.
I shared it. Who is this? Udaya, right?
Uday, yeah.
I will check. Everyone else, you can see a new course, right? Kubernetes Labs. So I will try to add few more topics into that, such as namespace. Then namespace is simple. You have already seen. Yeah, everyone have access. I hope everyone checked it. I have created a new course that contains some Kubernetes topics.
Hi
So I
Basil,
will
even
try
I
to
am
add.
not able to see the course.
Okay.
Nandini here.
Can you, yeah, yeah. Can you send me an email? Those who cannot see, send me an email.
Sure, sure, sure.
Basil,
Udaya, can you also send me?
Yeah,
I
yeah, I
can
will
see
send it.
Kubernetes labs only. Have you shared other courses? So because I cannot
It's
see.
Kubernetes Labs. I'm talking about Kubernetes Labs only. Yes.
Okay, okay. And Basil, one thing like I faced some error while installing that cloud init that took a CLI mode. But I sent you one mail yesterday. So if possible, just check once from your side the error.
Okay. Sure. Sure. I think
Um,
yesterday there were too many emails. I could not respond. Yeah, I'll reply to all of
Actually,
them.
I tried to create a Docker, login account, but I'm not able to do it.
It's just a simple
It's
registration
asking
at
me code to update. Where I can get the code, Docker code.
you don't. So you are trying to create an account in hub.docker.com. That's what you are saying, or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
no? Just go to the website in your browser. Go to hub.docker.com and sign up.
Okay.
That's all. It's like creating a new account at hub.docker.com. You got a Docker ID and you use the same credentials with the Docker login command.
Okay.
Basil, Geeta here. Even I tried Kubernetes installation like Docker and K3, kubectl and K3D. But everything was successful. But while getting nodes, kubectl get nodes, it was not showing it was showing some server error. So is it the configuration of the Ubuntu machine? Like I was troubleshooting it. I've sent you a mail also. Can you please check and
Yeah,
should
most
I?
probably it could be a Docker crashing, maybe due to memory. It could be memory or CPU problem, but yeah, I will check your
Okay,
screenshot.
okay.
If
Now,
you send,
can I terminate the instance and create one more Ubuntu machine and then try again? I think
did you use T2 Micro? So you are doing it on AWS machine, right? Or
yeah,
not in
yeah,
your laptop?
AWS. No, on AWS machine. And
Yeah, T2
the
Micro might not work. I don't know. It may work. It may not work.
so
T2 Micro, I'm not sure.
what should be
I
the
think T2.
configuration?
I think you might need T2 small.
T too small. Okay, okay. Because many had answered like if we increase the RAM, memory, and if we
Yeah,
reboot
yeah.
the machine, we could maybe because of the server configuration. Okay, I'll try, Basil.
That's the most possible reason. That's what I
Okay,
was also thinking. Yeah, most
okay,
probably that
okay,
is the reason.
okay, Basil.
And
Thank you.
there is some questions in the chat.
Hello, Basil. I had a question. Hello.
Yes, yes, go ahead.
Yeah, so can you upload yesterday's lecture on the Google Drive? Because currently, which one has it? It has the 360p resolution, and I cannot see anything on my like screen. It is like totally blurred, like every pixel.
Wait, so you're saying the video is not uploaded, yesterday's video is not uploaded?
No, it is uploaded, but like the resolution of it, it is like really low. I think 240p or 360p.
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
on my screen, I cannot see it because I have the bigger laptop. So
Yeah, actually, that is not in my control. It's GoToMeeting. I am recording directly in GoToMeeting.
okay,
And
I
yeah,
understand.
that problem is there actually. Yeah. And I cannot do anything about it, unfortunately.
Okay, right, right.
So Basil, as we have created the account in the GCP and we are using it, so do we have to stop that cluster or we have to just keep running it?
You have to, I mean, there is no option to stop a cluster. You can delete the worker nodes. That is an option, but a cluster cannot be stopped. You have to keep it running. Either you have to delete it, create a new one, or you have to keep it running.
Okay.
But you can delete the node group though. You can delete the worker nodes, make it 0. That is possible.
Okay, that will save some cost as well, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And some questions in the chat. Yeah, Charan, I think I already answered your question. So Argo CD will not replace your existing pipelines. Your existing pipelines are still going to be there. Argo CD just does the GitOps part in your company. Whatever Kubernetes manifest that you prepare, that you change, Argo CD avoid you the need of using kubectl command to apply the changes, or kubectl or helm, whatever command line that you use. Do not use any command line to apply your manifest to the cluster. Instead, let Argo CD watch the git and any changes that you make and automatically sync it. So that is what Argo CD do. So Argo CD can be integrated with other tools such as Helm. So instead of reading direct YAML file, Argo CD can read the Helm charts and apply the Helm chart to the Kubernetes cluster. Argo CD can take the customize and apply the customize into. So Argo CD can take the manifest in any form. It could be plain Kubernetes YAML, Helm charts, customize files, customize we are going to learn next. Whatever it is, Argo CD takes it and then apply it. So it avoid the need of a deployment. I mean, right? Generally, deployment means an engineer sits, a set of engineer do it together by running some command in their laptop, and some work need to be initiated from your part. Argo CD avoid that part. That deployment you can get rid of using Argo CD. So and Git is more convenient way for people to work together. That's where Argo CD come into picture. So you need to have Jenkins or Argo workflow, whatever you are using for continuous integration. Continuous integration, Argo CD cannot be used. So, during your continuous integration, maybe you want to do a deployment, you can use GitOps. You can just, rather than using kubectl, you can prepare the manifest, push them into Git automatically as part of your existing CI pipeline. Then Argo CD will deploy it automatically. So that those things you can do. That is how GitHub, I mean Argo CD work with other tools. But generally it's a completely independent tool. It does one job: taking the code from Git, taking the manifest from Git, updating your Kubernetes clusters accordingly. Somali did not get kubectl add context part. Actually, yeah. So you have seen I am adding a Kubernetes cluster to the Argo CD just by running a single command. So how did that happen? So Argo CD will be managing multiple clusters at the same time, and just by running the Argo CD cluster add command, I created a new cluster. So actually, that is because in my laptop, I already have kubectl configured and I already am connected to a number of clusters. So internally, that Argo CD cluster add command will use my kubectl to talk to those clusters that I am already connected with, and then create some credentials inside those clusters so that from next time Argo CD can directly connect to the cluster without using kubectl. So in my laptop, I already have that cluster credentials configured, and Argo CD already have access. Argo CD command line already have access to the cluster. That's what it is doing. And then once it got access, it will create separate credentials inside the cluster so that from next time Argo CD can work directly with that cluster. So that is what happened. So you cannot simply add the command from any laptops to get a cluster created. You need all the credentials and everything. So in my laptop, I already had kubectl configured and context were already there. Then I can add those context to Argo CD just by running a single command, Argo CD cluster add.
Okay, Basil, yeah, thanks. I got it now. Yeah.
Yeah. How does you validate the changes when we have the image version tagged to latest? Yeah, Charan, I think we already discussed that. Why do we want to
Thank you.
roll? Why do we want to roll back if pod is not deleted? Yeah, Abhi, yeah, actually, what if the pod is deleted? So why do we want to roll back? One very good thing that Kubernetes does is it will not delete the old pod until the new pod come up. But what happens for some reason that pod got deleted? Actually, it won't be recreated again. That's the problem. So once you updated your deployment to the latest version, you change the version of your Docker images, and then you did a new deployment. What Kubernetes does is Kubernetes will keep the old pod until the new pod come up. And maybe the new pod is failed, and and some error is happening. And for 2 days, for 3 days, the old pod will keep running. But if the old pod accidentally got deleted or due to some reason, right? These are all electronic devices and something can always go wrong. If the old code ever got deleted, then it will never be recreated again, because the latest deployment settings will always try to create the new ports from the latest deployment settings. So yeah, so you should roll back. Rollback should be done. Otherwise, if a failure happened to the all ports, they won't be recreated. I am also
Also,
unable to
Basil,
see.
how to roll back at GitHub? GitHub also we have to do a rollback, right? So
Uh, Actually, generally, the rollback generally means no, you don't have to roll back. If you did a rollback once in Argo CD, then it would be marked as a rollback, and Argo CD will stop synchronizing from the GitHub. So
no,
that
that I
automatic,
understood. Yeah, that
yeah,
that is what the Argo CD's part is done. But at GitHub
exactly.
also we have to do, right?
GitOps, you don't have to do the rollback. When you work on GitHub, when you work on the Git repository, GitHub, you always try to keep it up to date. So let's say you faced a problem and you roll back, then you fix the problem and you update your Docker image. Or maybe you make a new commit in Git that will contain the rollback settings. So Git you will work as just like you work on a development project, how you do the development. You won't delete commits, you will fix the problem. And in Git, fixing the problem generally means creating a new commit. So it could be rollback, it could be issue fixing, whatever. Yes, you have to do that.
Okay, so from the Git we have to do such things, and GitHub is just to like storing the file. That's it.
When I say Git, I mean GitHub. Sorry.
Okay.
So you
Okay.
don't have to do any deletion of. I mean, GitHub is more like a code repository where you make incremental changes. So something goes wrong, what you do is you correct that mistake, maybe change the YAML file, then make a next commit. So the latest commit would contain the fix. So it could be a rollback or it could be a fix, whatever. It's a you change the file in GitHub and uh, make the changes in GitHub. That's what you do. GitHub has already a mechanism. We are going to learn GitHub in detail actually. At
Okay.
some
Okay.
point
That's
we'll
fine.
learn GitHub in detail. So GitHub already have a super mechanism to manage these things as commits. So we'll be explaining that in detail.
Okay.
Commits, branches, lot of things. Yeah. Can we make Argo CD HA and if yes, it is covered in the course? Argo CD HA is not very difficult. Not very. In this training, I'm not planning actually. Um, you can run multiple Argo CD instances. You can increase the number of replicas. Argo CD already it follow when you install Argo CD, you have seen some 5 software got installed in your Kubernetes cluster, and all 5 software may be scaled to have more replicas. So Argo CD is designed in that way. So high availability is very straightforward, and all you need to do is during the Argo CD installation, you specify some auto scaling settings or some stuff for those Argo CD applications internally. And in this course, I am not planning. I don't know if it is that much important, but yeah, in companies generally Argo CDs are installed in every clusters. So generally the cluster would contain only one Argo CD, and Argo CD don't do a lot of things, right? The only thing Argo CD does is it run the kubectl apply. So from the Argo CD part, I don't think you will face any load problem. It's because it does the simple jobs. And initial scripting. Anil send me an email. Those who don't have access to the new course that I created yesterday, send me an email.
Basil, one quick question. So the course that you have shared in Doorward, right, the Kubernetes Labs. So I'm able to see the submodules and all, but when I click on that, the video is not buffering. I mean, is there some issue?
I think it has to be. Anyone else face any problem like this? Same issue. Oh, okay. Try in a private
Different
window,
browser?
and you send me a screenshot also. Actually, I
Okay.
also need to
Yeah,
fix this.
that is one
If
thing.
more than
And the
20
other thing,
statements.
I think there was one question, right, from someone when he's trying to view the recorded sessions, he's not able to see them in high resolution. So what I observed, right, initially the video, it will be in very low resolution. After maybe some 7 8 hours, when I again checked back, it was actually showing in HD. I'm not sure if what is the reason, but maybe after it is fully uploaded, is that the
No,
reason
I
or
think
might be because I saw the video
yeah,
in HD.
okay. Actually, sometimes daily it's different resolutions in what they are recording.
Was
I
it?
think this is some cloud recordings actually.
Okay.
So every time I daily, it's different resolution that they are. Maybe they are doing some kind of during the heavy load hours they reduce the resolution or something like that.
Okay. Okay. Fine, Basil. Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Okay, then yeah, awesome. So we'll continue tomorrow. See you tomorrow.